for a ceasefire?
No, we never asked for a ceasefire, and we have never asked even for negotiation.
Are you afraid of a US invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the US military to invade, the ground troops?
Yes.
Seems like President Donald Trump is wrong about Iran begging for mercy. And that's what this story is really about, because Dropsite News has done some reporting on where Iranians are at when it comes to this war. And it seems to conflict considerably with narratives coming from the Trump administration. So before we get to the details, Cenk, your 2 cents.
So in this story, first of all, you're gonna see why Iran wants us to use ground troops so badly. And you're also gonna see the difference between real reporters, the ones that Dropsite News, and mainstream media, and how they cover the same story and how one is clearly telling the truth and the other isn't. So it's an amazing story. Anna, tell us about it.
So Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy and real estate guy, is at the center of this story. And so the framing in Dropsite News is very different from what you'll see in the legacy media and the mainstream media. So Araghchi, who is the foreign minister of Iran, not only made it clear on Face the Nation that he isn't seeking a ceasefire, Iran is not seeking a ceasefire. He even reiterated that during the foreign ministry's final press conference of the Iranian calendar year. Here's what he said. We don't ask for ceasefire, but this war must end in a way that our enemies never again think about repeating such attacks. They now understand what kind of nation they are dealing with. Iran is ready to take the war wherever necessary. And according to a new report from Dropsite News, it is the Trump administration that has been asking for talks. 2 Iranian officials told Dropsite that Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, personally sent messages to officials in Tehran, including Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, last week exploring possibilities for resuming negotiations. Remember, the US and Israel is running low on missile interceptors. Iran knows that. They further write over at Dropsite that Iran has not replied to Witkoff. The Iranian officials told Dropsite that Iran has also received messages from the White House via third countries. In fact, a senior Iranian official spoke to Dropsite telling them that because of decisions made by Iran's top authorities, no response was sent to his messages. The message here is clear. Iran has once again closed the window for any direct negotiations. The authority to declare a ceasefire rests solely with the country's supreme leader. It's not something the foreign minister or any other official or organization in Iran would send messages about to a foreign party. Now, why would they want a ceasefire when you consider the fact that the new Ayatollah the old Ayatollah was murdered, as we all know. The new Ayatollah has lost several of his family members. Mojtaba is his name. And that includes his wife, his son, his sister, his brother-in-law, obviously his father. His mother also died of her wounds. And the opening salvo by the United States in Iran was to slaughter hundreds of elementary school girls at an elementary school in Manab. Okay, 175 people total died as a result. And so, as you can imagine, he's not really interested in a ceasefire. According to foreign ministry spokesman, foreign ministry spokesperson, he says Iran entered the negotiations with open eyes. He said, accusing Washington of ultimately undermining diplomacy. Tehran had engaged in talks in part to demonstrate to the international community that it was not responsible for the conflict, he added. Now, less than an hour after Dropsite News published their piece, Israeli insider Barak Ravid tried to spin this as something entirely different. So what did his reporting say? A US official and a source with knowledge said Araghchi sent text messages to Witkoff that focused on ending the war. The US official claimed the outreach came from the Iranian side, but the US is not talking to Iran. But they add, neither of the sources spoke in detail about how many texts had been exchanged or about their content. Interesting. And again, Araghchi denied this, writing on X, "My last contact with Mr. Witkoff was prior to his employer's decision to kill diplomacy with another illegal military attack on Iran. Any claim to the contrary appears geared solely to mislead oil traders and the public." So why is the US or seemingly trying to spin this? Well, one of the sources, a senior Iranian official who spoke to DropSite on the condition of anonymity, said the US outreach indicates that the Trump administration underestimated Iran's resolve and is seeking an off-ramp. Many direct and indirect requests for a ceasefire have been coming from the US. Now that they've seen the Iranian side isn't responding to those requests, they're trying to make up for their embarrassment by twisting the narrative in the media. The responses that we provide to third-party countries for a ceasefire are being publicly presented by Trump as if they were his own positions. So basically, Iran is saying, no, we're not reaching out to the US, okay? We're done with the diplomatic talks. We see what the US does when we're engaged in diplomatic talks. They essentially engage in the military equivalent of a sucker punch and attack us. So no, we're at war and we don't want a ceasefire, we don't want negotiations. That's their perspective. But for whatever reason, Barak Ravid over at Axios has a completely different take, Cenk.
Yeah, so I read the reporting on both, and in DropSite News, it was one piece of evidence after another, both from the Iranian side and the US side, and the actual facts on the ground to support their hypothesis that no, the Iranians are not asking for a ceasefire. In fact, they won't even return our calls for a ceasefire. Axios goes, yeah, bro, I talked to somebody in the White House and somebody in Israel, and they say that they want us to believe that the Iranians are begging for a ceasefire. So we printed it so we could lie to you guys and trick you into believing that this war is going to be easy. So you go further into the war and we get our objectives in Israel. Oh, that's really convincing. Okay, anyways, seriously guys, the Axios report had no evidence, nothing on the ground. So for example, only 10% of the ships are now getting through the Strait of Hormuz. And so the Iranians feel like they have an advantage there. The Iranians are saying all over media, please come use your ground troops, right? So now if you're, and here's the juxtaposition so you can tell with your own eyes. In the first war, the 12-day war, the Iranians did ask for a ceasefire. We told you that, DropSite News told you that, because it was true, right? And it was obvious that they were trying to avoid the war. In fact, they would put out these attacks that were telegraphed, and they told us which way they were coming. It was obvious they were trying to avoid a war and end it as quickly as possible. Here, in every single instance, Iran is saying, no, you're not getting it. We like that the Strait of Hormuz is closed. We think it's going to do massive damage to you, and we want to damage you so badly you never come back.
No, in fact, they have been trolling the Trump administration to send ground troops, which I don't want to happen. I think it would be disastrous for our troops. I think many of them will either be severely injured or lose their lives. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, here's what I'm talking about. You're about to hear from the spokesperson, a spokesperson from Iran. He put out this video recently. He's basically egging Trump on to send troops.
A message to the President of the United States. The outcome of war cannot be determined by tweets. The result of a war is determined in the field, the very place where you and your forces do not dare to approach, and you can only talk about it in your tweets. It's better to name this war as epic fear instead of epic fury.
Cenk?
Yeah, so when they send their top commanders and their top diplomats and politicians to say, we welcome you, we are waiting for you. Okay, your tweets will not decide this war, the field will decide this war. Okay, so what they're doing is they're getting in our face. So you could hate that, you could have different opinions about that. But what's clear about it is they're saying, please get on the ground. You don't say this if you're worried about America hitting you, right? You're gonna get in Trump's face. Remember Maduro did a dance, and that's why Trump was like more agitated and wanted to take him out more. You think they don't know that about Trump? They're very familiar with Trump's inclinations. So they're trying to poke him and go, come a little further, come a little further. Why? Because if we're fighting in the air and in the water, we have a massive advantage. We have aircraft carriers, we have jets, we have everything in the world. We've already wiped out their Air Force and their Navy. But if we get on the ground, we're sitting ducks. And we're in their home turf, filled with mountains. And so that's why they're like, please stop your tweets and come onto the field. And did you hear what he said? He said, it sounds like this is Operation Epic Fear.
Okay, Jake, look, I'm not a military expert at all, okay? So you can take this with a grain of salt, but I'm also aware of what we get involved in worldwide, what we win, what we lose. Do the Houthis have a navy?
So the Houthis are an interesting, they have boats, so it depends on what you call a navy.
They've got boats, okay, do they have an air force?
No.
No air force? No real official navy. We beat them, right? We beat the Houthis in Yemen?
No, we didn't, Anna.
Oh.
They have a couple of dinghies and they have a couple of bombs, but we couldn't beat them in Yemen, and the Saudis couldn't beat them in Yemen, and so we gave the Saudis tons of weapons. By the way, the Israelis, last time they tried to take southern Lebanon, they couldn't take southern Lebanon.
I hope that's going to be the case this time around too.
And we hope so too, because that imperial fascist empire needs to be brought back to within its own borders. And so then, the Vietnamese, for the mighty American army, that's easy, right? Was it easy in Vietnam?
I think they spanked us.
In Afghanistan, where when we went in, they had like 3 rocks and a stick to fight us. And like morons, we brought in a bunch of weapons. We handed it to them and then they used it against us. Was it easy in Afghanistan for 20 long, brutal years? Was it easy in Iraq? And by the way, who told you it was gonna be easy in Iraq? Easy in Iran, easy in Libya, easy in all these places. Oh, look at that. Israel and all of their supporters in American media and American politics told us, yeah, it's gonna be easy. And hey, by the way, if it's gonna be so easy, why doesn't Israel go do it? It looks like the Iranians are waiting for them, so Netanyahu could put down his tweets and engage in Iran if he'd like. I have no interest in American troops landing on the ground there and falling into their obvious trap. If Israel would like to use their troops to fall into that trap,
Israel can do whatever
that's up to them.
Exactly. I mean, Israel is a sovereign country. Do what you want without our money, without our soldiers, and without our involvement. But they drag us into this mess anyway. And I really don't want ground troops. I don't want our soldiers to be a part of this mess, but it does seem like we're headed in that direction. Trump sent 5,000 additional Marines to that region of the world for this war. So just keep that in mind as this devastating debacle continues to devolve.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.